Welcome to the Sunday Sports Buzz presented by Sam Swope. Still Louisville's only live TV sports talk show, at least for a couple more weeks, as my co-host tonight and good friend John Lewis, local TV sports anchor, a member of the Sports Buzz crew family, will be starting the new Friday Sports Buzz in 2 weeks on December 2nd at midnight, 12 midnight, a wrap-up. We get to wrap up all the high school games, but this is the original Louisville's only live TV sports talk show, the Sunday Sports Buzz. I'm your host, Greg Brom, joined, as I mentioned earlier, by John Lewis. John, thanks for coming on board.
Glad to do it and glad to be part of the Buzz crew here. And I know, we're only going to be a copy of the original, so we're going to try to live up to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, John's used to hosting our afternoon sports buzz on 1450 AM with Handsome Jimmy, and I am a poor replacement, a poor substitute for the one and only Handsome.
Well, I'm going to try to get through this without Handsome Jimmy, but we'll try.
It's like replacing John Madden, or sitting in for Madden, sitting in for Handsome. But we got a busy show. Our number 964-2121. Definitely give us a call, because we're going to talk about the Big Four right here: Louisville and Kentucky, basketball and football, the Big Four sports in this area. And let's hit it running right off the bat. UK basketball played 2 games this weekend. Yesterday, I think we saw how good Kentucky can be. And today, I think you saw maybe a little bit of a formula to slow down the Cat machine. What did you think about 2 performances?
Well, I don't know that you can really, how much you can really talk about today versus yesterday, because there's been a lot of travel, and I'm certainly not trying to be a big blue homer and make some excuses for UK. I mean, that's just not the case. They played so many games. There was all this travel. They did the whole ESPN thing. They're doing all this stuff. Then they play back-to-back games. Now, you're not even going to find that kind of travel and that kind of schedule in March, much less doing it in to start off the season. But yeah, you saw they had some vulnerable spots, I think, and I think that's something that other teams will certainly look at the film of that. I don't think they're going to look at a lot of that Penn State film, because that was an absolute blowout. That was never a game.
Yeah, I don't know if Old Dominion had the perfect style to kind of stalemate some of Kentucky's speed and explosiveness, but it looks to me like if you play a zone defense, maybe you try to bang it inside on Kentucky, maybe get Davis in foul trouble, get him off the court, you might be able to stay close with this team. I think, their weapons, their explosiveness, you saw Lamb on Saturday hitting threes, you've seen Davis blocking shots, but I think there is a formula out there, and it's going to be people are going to try to copy it over and over again.
We talk about, well, UK had a depth problem. We thought that last year. They can't make a run in March. We saw what happened with that. They go to the Final Four. So I don't think depth is going to be an issue, although a lot of people have talked about depth. Their problem right now, we think, is going to be in the middle. They're missing the big guys. They're missing the jorts. They're missing the guys who can take up space in the middle. And like you said, you try to bang it down low. I mean, Davis is a monster, sure, but can he hold up against some of the bigger competition?
And that's what I ask our viewers today. What you've seen so far, is Kentucky better than you thought, worse than you thought, or just what you expected? And also, next year, I'm going to ask you this, John, for Louisville fans, do you fear this Cat team more than last year's Cat team? I mean, I know this one has the pedigree, the hype, but are they missing the shooting of a Brandon Knight? They're missing the beef inside of a Harrelson versus the superstars they have right now trying to gel together. Which one, as a Cardinal fan, do you think Cards fear more?
I think they should probably fear this team more. I mean, you look position by position. Now, Grant, again, you saw what UK had, what we saw on the court last year they went to the Final Four. But then you start seeing just some sparks here. You see Deron Lamb, who could have come out. You see a lot of those guys who could have, most of them went, but you saw the guys who stayed, and they have looked good early. Now, games in November don't mean a whole lot. But I think if you're looking at the formula right now, and if I'm a Cards fan, I would probably fear this team more than I would fear last year's team.
Well, Louisville with a big win yesterday. They traveled up to Indianapolis, Hinkle Fieldhouse, beat the 2-time defending national runner-up, Butler Bulldogs, and pulled away in the second half. I mean, you're missing Seaver, you're missing Blackshear, you're missing Mara, you're missing Buckles, who I think all those parts that are going to come back are all going to be key parts. But Couric came alive, Smith came alive, and it looked like they were able to fill in for Siva well enough.
I love the guard play at UFL right now. I mean, they're taking under Brad Stevens had only lost 5 times. I mean, that is it's a historic place, a tremendous place to play, and tremendously hard to play in that building and to come away with a win. It's only happened 5 other times until U of L went up there. And you think they're going to do it without Siva. They've got all these guys that they're missing, but they came together, I thought, as a team, did what they had to do to come out of there with a win.
And I tell you what, Rick talked about the fact they played like a veteran team. I think you saw a little bit yesterday why this team is not just last year's team a year older. Right. And it's a better team to go up to Butler and to win convincingly in the second half on the road in a hostile environment without some of your key guys. It's a better team. Now, is it good enough to beat the Cats? That it's going to be a tough, tall chore on December 31 in Rupp Arena. But we want your reaction. 964-2121, UK basketball and U of L basketball. Busy weekend for both. U of L football, huge victory at Connecticut. This team is better on the road. They're better when it's us against the world. They go into UConn. UConn is not very good. They're not very good, to be honest with you.
Right.
They're not. But Louisville went and got the victory, 34-20. And now this team sits, John, 6-5. If they win at South Florida, it's never been done. Even though South Florida is near the bottom, maybe at the bottom of the Big East. Win at South Florida, I think the scenarios play out where they're likely to get the Orange Bowl bid, because all that has to happen other than a victory at South Florida is one more Cincinnati loss. Yep. They're on the road at Syracuse.
Very possible.
Very possible. They lost their starting quarterback, looked terrible last week. And then a West Virginia win at home versus Pitt, and you're going to the Orange Bowl.
Good for U of L, first of all, and good for the BCS that this happens, because there was some talk earlier this week. We heard that the BCS might get out of the whole bowl business and just focus on trying to get number 1 versus number 2. Well, when this happens, when you have a team, and I'm taking nothing away from U of L, but when you have a team that lost to Marshall, that may have a BCS bid with 5 losses, that is probably one of the best things that could happen, other than what happened.
Do you think so? Because it actually, it's an argument for the BCS to get out of the automatic qualifying business. I mean, Big East might be in danger of losing automatic status when you have a 6-7-5 team going to the Orange Bowl. And it's funny when you really think about it. This Louisville team, how hard? Think of 2006, when Louisville went 11-1.
Yep.
Had to wait for late into the night for West Virginia to win in triple overtime over Rutgers in the last game of the season to just eke into the Orange Bowl. Now you're going to have a 7-5 Louisville team that possibly go to the Orange Bowl. Actually, the hardest thing to happen out of this scenario, I think, is Louisville winning at South Florida. Of all those things,
I think so.
They haven't done it.
It was always a problem playing at UConn, and they did that. And you're right; these guys have been road warriors. Charlie Strong talked about it. They've had some focus issues here, and we're not just talking about the Call of Duty thing, playing video games. He even said, these guys they're horsing around when the coaches are trying to talk. They were laughing during the card walk. They didn't look focused. They didn't look serious. You get away from home. You get away from those distractions, and I think it's paid off for them. And then they go to South Florida. They could win this thing and could win the Big East. I think it's amazing and good for them.
And then Kentucky football, close loss at Georgia. I give them a lot of credit for the effort they put out. They made some bad turnovers on offense. Play Tennessee this week. I actually think if Joker can get this, go 5-7, beat Tennessee, at least he has something to build on for next year.
Something, but I mean, usually when we're talking about Tennessee, they're talking about Kentucky maybe beating Tennessee for the first time since 1984 and going to a bowl. And I just don't know. I mean, you're playing for pride, and he talked about playing for pride. I don't know. You're right. It's something positive, but I just don't know if the pride is really there.
All right, our number 964-2121, the Goomer & Company Buzzline. Kentucky basketball. Do you fear them more, Louisville fans, this year than last year? And who had the best weekend of the 4 big sports, Louisville, Kentucky basketball and football? Give us a call. The Sunday Sports Buzz presented by Sam Swope.